Hello, welcome to the Ready, Set, Grow podcast. Today we're here with Joe Dales, founder of RH Accelerator, and Shea Martin, the CEO and founder of BrewNinja. Shea, would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. I mean, my background is in software. I've worked in everything from oil field to video games to national defense contracting. So I've kind of been all over the map, but I've always had an interest in beer and brewing, although I've never done it as a profession or worked in the industry. And essentially, Saskatchewan was a little bit behind other areas as far as the craft beer boom taking off, and when it did, kind of coincided right with when I had moved to the province. And I went into some of the breweries, started befriending some of the brewers, and I noticed some of the pain points they were having. And I realized that it was similar to problems I had solved in other industries. So I essentially started building out a prototype and convinced a brewery or two to work as beta customers, and the rest is kind of history, I guess.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Shea. You were based in the cultivator incubator at the University of Regina, probably last summer, right about now, because I think I was out for the Ag in Motion show, and yeah, I was intrigued by what he was doing, and he was getting some nice traction with customers, and he also told me he had a farming background, so. I'm always happy to hear about farm kids. So can you tell me about your farming family and
Yeah.
upbringing?
So I grew up on a farm just about 30 minutes outside of Regina. I was a mixed farm, cattle and grain. Kind of watched the era I grew up in farming was probably one of the worst eras for farming in the last 100 years. And so when I was done high school, I thought I don't really want anything to do with the struggles that I saw my parents go through. They were both professionals working off the farm to support it, and the rest of all my family on both sides are involved in agriculture, and I guess I always had a soft spot for it. And I remember my parents telling me, who had both gone to university and were professionals, that it's a network that will connect you for life. And from university, I was always meeting kids that I'd met through 4-H or other agricultural experiences, and then, like, it didn't matter where I went in Canada, that was kind of a common theme. It's kind of like when you play a sport and you meet somebody and they play the same sport, you've instantly got something to talk about, and the farm has been something like that. And then I was out of the province for 15 years, and coming back, it was kind of neat to reconnect with it. And yeah, it feels good to be involved in some way now after being away for so long. But
Yeah, great story. I'm really impressed with you guys have gotten traction. You've got a product in the marketplace. Can you talk a little bit about the funding? Because usually for startups, the first getting your MVP and getting your first product out, that's Death Valley, and you've done that. So, and then just talk a little bit about your future plans. What do you need? What do you want to accomplish as far as your future funding?
yeah, so it started out with just me, and then as I realized that there was something really here, I started looking around for other ways to leverage grants and funding, and essentially have bootstrapped up until this point by leveraging funding, leveraging our own sales dollars. About a year and a half ago, we wanted to expand the team a bit, so we did a small friends and family round, and so that got us through another year. We've leveraged IRAP, provincial trade and export programs. So, like, when you're bootstrapping, it's just about a full-time job looking to leverage all these funds available, right? And they're there to help. They're there to help start businesses like this. So you got to make sure you take advantage of them. And now we're at a point where we're in a growth phase. We have a product, and I think when you have a software product, it's never done. You've always got, if you run out of ideas to make it better, you're probably in the wrong business, right? So, but that's not the most important thing right now. The most important thing is for us to grow as fast as we can, and in order to do that and still offer customers a good experience, we need to take on angel and VC funding. So we were just in the middle of that. We're having some really good success when our friend COVID came to visit, and that put things on hold a bit. And to be honest, it was kind of good because it pulled back expectations. Let's reset. Let's make sure we got everything in order. And we had enough runway that we were able to do that. And so just now, as I knock on wood, but as things start to normalize a little bit, at least here in Canada, and especially in Western Canada, we're back into just getting back into fundraising mode again. And I would say what we're seeing from investors is they're kind of sensing the same thing. They're like, okay, well, the freeze is over. Let's start to get things back to normal. So we're starting to get some traction in that area again.
Right.
That's good. Can you just tell us a little bit about your customers and just some success stories there, Shea?
Yeah, I one of the stories that we often tell in a sales pitch is that I'm really proud of is we had one of our first breweries got audited, and the CRA loves to audit breweries. I don't know why it is, but I think they're convinced the world is funneling money through breweries. But anyway, so they got audited, and they were able to come up with all the answers, but it took some digging, and it was obvious to the CRA they were digging, and not digging as in making up numbers, but they had to dig to find the answers, right? And so we had a lot of their data in the system, so we helped them make that data more readily accessible. It also highlighted some of the things that we should be tracking to make these things easier for breweries. And then, so one of the big success stories I'm proud of is, we've had a couple more breweries be audited. I should mention that first brewery, the result of that was they came up with the answers, but CRA essentially said, for the next year, continue to give us these reports every month. So the subsequent breweries we had the software was a little more geared for that. CRA came knocking, asked for some answers, and they were able to, within hours, send them back these reports and CRA's response was, okay, we'll see you later. They just went away. And I mean, that's a lot of time and pain and stress, anxiety, et cetera, that we saved those breweries. So I am really proud of that. And, another success story that we were built as an inventory platform and then a compliance platform. But one of the things that really affects inventory is your sales. So we realized that sales and CRM tools are overkill for what a brewery's doing. They're selling to the same customers over and over generally, right? So we built out a small component that satisfies that needs, and it directly affects inventory and stuff like that. So it tied in really nicely. One of our more successful breweries decided they were going to expand, and they were going to hire a third-party sales force. So when they did that, the third-party sales force, as part of their pitch, said, this is the CRM we use. This is how we use it, just kind of pitching them. And the brewery said, we've been using this BrewNinja CRM. It's tied directly to inventory. Maybe isn't quite as fancy, but it does everything we need. And so this third-party sales team was kind of skeptical, but they agreed to give it a try. And, we've never heard they never said a peep after. It's been a year now, and they've continued to use it and reached out once or twice. And they're really happy that they can see inventory right there. They're not selling beer that's out of stock. And so, yeah, that's another win, I guess.
Can you just take us through just a quick sort of rundown of exactly what your BrewNinja sort of system is and what you've created?
Yeah, so we started out as a inventory management system, and we quickly, making beer is essentially a manufacturing process. So that means that pretty much everything affects inventory, and we realized that we weren't going to be able to stay an inventory solution without a lot of pain. And so we started doing some production planning where you can plan out what you're going to brew, when you're going to brew it, and then have it automatically affect inventory when that happens. We started adding all the regulatory tracking because of the audits. And then now recently CRA has just mandated that breweries have to be, a beer has to be treated like food. So there has to be a full traceability and HACCP plan in place. And so BrewNinja gives them that. I just alluded to the fact that we ended up building out a sales module because of, and a fulfillment module, of course, because that directly affects your inventory. And then taxation for breweries isn't as straightforward as in some other industries. So, but when you have all the data, it's not that hard to produce those reports. So we started producing those reports. So essentially, we kind of became an all-in-one platform for a brewery.
Awesome. Like, what were the breweries using before? Just a like piecemeal approach?
So there is some competition in the place, but you're right. The biggest player in this space is low tech still. Although we're really seeing that change recently. We find a lot of breweries, especially in Canada, are using QuickBooks, but they're, essentially doing a big reconcile at the end of every month. So our platform knows what you're doing and is making journal entries and keeping your QuickBooks up to date on the fly. But yeah, they were using a lot of spreadsheets and even worse, whiteboards. We've gone into breweries where the sales team, whenever they made a sale, was texting somebody back at the brewery, "Hey, this needs to get delivered to this place on this day," right? And those get lost pretty easy, and you lose them more than once, and you probably lost that customer, right? And
Yep.
Going back to the wins, I think one of the real eye openers for me was we sent out a survey to some of our early customers saying, "What's your favorite feature of BrewNinja?" And it was almost unanimous. They didn't name a feature. They said, "You've solved our communication problems," right? Sales staff, accounting, management, production, they all have one platform to go to and can see what's happening in their brewery.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shea, you're a tech founder. You're the software guy. Tell me about some of the challenges you've overcome, in the startup, because we know startups are hard. And then I'd like you to just elaborate a little bit on the whole Regina entrepreneurial startup ecosystem. So what challenges first? And I know you're still overcoming them. So
Yeah. From our conversations. So, I mean, I've heard non-technical founders say, "Oh, it's so much easier if you're a technical co-founder because you can jump into the technical side." And I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because I think one of the first thing you have to get over as a technical founder is the mentality of, if you build it, they will come, because it's not true. And then the next thing is, well, when we're done building it, we'll start selling it. Another bad mistake, like I could just go through my mistakes and write a book on what to do right. But I mean, I knew right away that I had that imbalance, but it did take me about a year to find the right person to be that balance. And I really think it's extremely hard to be successful without having one of each, and having that person that can start selling and believes in selling before the product's even ready. And so I would think that's the biggest thing to overcome as a technical founder.
And having the business side covered off.
Yeah.
And sales.
Yeah. And I would, because we're part of we're part of an incubator. And I mean, I'm probably one of the older ones in it, right? And I see young people, and I would say even the young non-technical founders, I think, still underestimate how important sales is.
Yeah.
And you need to hear it, and you also need to live it. Because I mean, you, Joe, and I've had other mentors say that to me, but it takes a while to sink in, I guess, depending on how technical you are, but it took a while for me to sink in, right? And so that was the biggest thing.
Don't run out of cash.
Yeah, don't run out of cash. Yeah. I think one of my mentors made me build out a financial model when I started, and I thought, we have one beta customer. Why am I doing this? But it was just such an eye opener. And it's just, it also gets rid of a lot of anxiety knowing that you've built it out and you're not guessing. We're going to need approximately
Absolutely.
this, right?
Yeah.
It's just such a great exercise. I also, that same mentor made me, he had the template for an expanded business plan. I think it was called a company storybook or something. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time I filled out that template, it was probably 20 pages long. And, I said to him, okay, do I just give this storybook to investors? What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, you don't do anything with it. You can reference it from time to time. And I thought, well, why did I do all that? And then I thought, look at all the things this made me think about. And, when it was time to do up a business plan to give to investors, a pitch deck, I had something to reference. I was just pulling stuff. And I think the key is just not to go in thinking you're going to figure this stuff out as you go. Like, of course, you're going to learn and figure stuff out as you go, but you need to take a stab at it early because it's also a reference point to see how much you've learned and how much you've changed. So,
yeah, we recommend, having a 12, 18-month cash flow and, just monitoring that even weekly, monthly for sure. So that, if you're ahead or behind, and if you're ahead, you can ramp up a little bit quicker, but, sometimes you have to go through the cash flow crunch to really realize how important that tool is. And, until you've done that and, conserve cash and just be careful with and pulling sales forward and spiking them as hard as you can. Right. So, no, I'm really proud of you, Shea. I've watched you grow for the last year, and I know you're going to be, wildly successful. I know you're going to be successful on your next round of financing. And, I love the story. So
thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And as I say, we're going to be watching you closely.
All right. Thank you.
How can our listeners find you online, Shea?
So our website is BrewNinja.net. Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are all BrewNinja app. Just BrewNinjaapp.
Okay, awesome. And we just wanted to thank you for being on the show today. And it was awesome to learn more about BrewNinja and just a little bit about your background, especially being a startup in Regina. And thanks. And just thank everyone for listening to the Ready, Set, Grow podcast. And I hope we have you back next episode. Thank you.